Cloaked in folds of midnight waters, side by side, we sons and daughters, we set forth for no king's orders, but we'll sail together. Hold fast, tides are turning, flames roar, fires are burning, we'll all be returning if we sail together. Cloaked in folds of midnight waters, side by side, we sons and daughters, we set forth for no king's orders, but we'll sail together. Hold fast, tides are turning, flames roar, fires are burning, we'll all be returning if we sail together. Cloaked in folds of midnight waters, side by side, we sons and daughters, we set forth for no king's orders, but we'll sail together. Hold fast, tides are turning, flames roar, fires are burning, we'll all be returning if we sail together. soaked in folds of midnight water, side by side, we sons and daughters. We set forth for no king's orders, but we'll sail together. Hold fast, tides are turning, flames roar, fires are burning, we'll all be returning if we sail together.
Open your eyes. Open your eyes.
Crazy talk. Hello everybody, how are you today on this Funday Friday of my top 5 pirates, which... Oh, I gotta shush you up. Shush the phone, shush myself up. Yeah, so I've been writing a script, and I got my top 5 pirates. It's gonna be epic. I even have a lady pirate for you girls out there named Bonny, so that's gonna be exciting. I got my Sea of Thieves background for the pirates. What?
Don't spoil.
Spoil what?
Don't spoil what you're gonna say.
Oh yeah, don't spoil the top 5 pirates.
You just spoiled one.
I did not.
You just said.
No.
You just said some sort of Bonny. Like
And Bonny. You just spoiled it. You just spoiled it.
You did.
Oh my gosh. So, how is everyone doing today? This is how it's gonna go down. Okay, I'm going to listen to me here. Okay, I'm gonna introduce each pirate one at a time. We have some things to talk about first, and then after I introduce the pirate, I'm gonna tell you why I chose them and what makes them fascinating. Right? So there you go. Chilled piggy bruh. Okay, yeah, good for you, man. I don't know what that means, Jeremy.
Piggy?
I don't know. Something weird happening right
Oh wait, that's his username.
That's
Chill
his
Pig.
username. Yeah, I know. Who knows? Who knows?
I don't know. It's just what he says is very close.
You think?
Yeah, no, his username is like
Chili
Chili Pig.
pig?
And you type down
Chili
Chili Pig.
pig. His name is Chili Pig, and he typed down Chill Piggy Bruh. That's what he typed down.
Yeah.
You get me now?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
You're positive?
Yeah.
Alright, if you say so. Alright, so here we go. You ready? Couple things we gotta talk about first.
That's all. Portal right there.
Yeah, that's not gonna work. Hold on. Everyone relax. Let's get ready.
I'm definitely not relaxed.
You're definitely not relaxed?
Yeah.
Why?
If I could, I'd be
it's
like just, because I'd be like that's a portal.
He's lost his mind.
Well, it's not my fault you put me in a green screen world and like my memory.
Alright, here we go. So today's fun day. Whoa, my lord. Why is it so ginormous? Oh, because I Ow! Lord.
Sorry.
I'm getting beat up over here.
Sorry, I tried to push my waist. I tried to push.
Alright, here we go. Funday Friday, which is May 8th, which is, let's make us a little small while I go over some of the rules that we need to talk about. Alright, here we go. So some of the rules, let's put you over here. There you go, so that makes more sense. Some of the rules that we're going to be talking about on Funday Friday. First, my top 5 pirates. My top 5 pirates are, one, they go backwards, okay? So just hear me out. So we're going to be counting down, but this list is in the order that I'm going to talk about them. So one is Black Bart, otherwise known as Bartholomew Roberts. Then we have, it's the worst to best, but they're all awesome because it's the top 5, and there's like hundreds of pirates. All right. Yeah, Blackbeard is not on it. We'll talk a little bit about Blackbeard, but Blackbeard's alright. He's the most famous pirate, but he's not the best. Alright, so things we need to know before we get started. Alright. First thing is, these are real people, okay? This is like real history, but obviously it's like myths and it's myth mixed in with lore and legends and stories, and it all wraps into the real history. But all of the pirates that I will be talking about today are absolutely real pirates, okay? And these people actually existed, and I'll talk about like what they know and then what people believe and stories and things like that. 2, most of what we know from these pirates comes from a guy by the name of Captain Charles Johnson and a general history of robberies and murders and the most notorious pirates, okay? And this was written in 1724, and people believe that the printing company, okay, that published this book, right, which is known, we kind of know it as the General History of Pirates, was a pseudonym. So Captain Charles Johnson isn't really his name, and that he was actually a pirate, and he wrote this book about all the pirates. And believe it or not, it is not super reliable. Obviously, it was written possibly by a pirate, but it was the most it is the most accurate account that we have of the pirates, okay? So, and this is known as the General History of Pirates. It was written in 1724, but that's kind of where we got it from. Then, of course, pop culture and modern days have taken the history of pirates and they've expanded on it, right? And so now we have, I'm making myself bigger again. Now we have things like Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, which Walt Disney took, and they made Pirates of the Caribbean the ride. And Pirates of the Caribbean the ride basically took the imagery of Robert Louis Stevenson's book Treasure Island, and they turned it into an amusement park ride. And they did this, in the 1970s, I believe? Yeah, they did a great job. And then Pirates of the Caribbean movie was a movie made from the Disney World ride. So Pirates of the Caribbean movie kind of can be reached back based off of Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island. Hold on, what? What do we got? Get in the camera here. You're not even in the camera.
There's no problem.
What's the problem?
copies from Disneyland. Not one.
They're the same thing. They both were made from Treasure
not.
Island. Both.
I mean, they're both are made from Treasure Island.
Well, there you go. That's all I'm talking about.
But Disneyland was inspiration for the Pirates movie.
Oh, Disneyland. Sorry, there's two Pirates of the Caribbean ride. He's a Disney expert, so we have to just respect that. All right, and as he dabs in the background. Now, then you have a general history of pirates, which gives an actual like account of pirates that existed. Most of the pirates that we're going to talk about today, their information is listed in a general history of pirates written in 1724. Then you have Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, which is a fictitious book about pirates. Then you have Walt Disney taking that story and turning it into Pirates of the Caribbean. And then you have Walt Disney taking that story again and turning it into Pirates of the Caribbean, the movie, which is kind of where pirates are most popular today.
Walt Disney did not see the movie.
No, see, I got mine.
Yes. The compass doesn't even work.
The compass shows you where you want to go most, and I want the coronavirus to be over most, and it's not showing me that, so
You know why?
whatever. All
Because
right,
that's not place.
okay. Now, I do want. Let's talk about Blackbeard, because Blackbeard's not on the list. All right, Blackbeard is not on the list, and well, because I don't think he's that impressive. First of all, his ship is probably the most impressive, right? Which is called a Queen Anne's Revenge. That was the name of his ship. And he sailed around South Carolina in the southern states of the United States. And he becomes the most famous pirate because he's late. He's kind of after the golden age of piracy. And Blackbeard, he gets away. He lasts a long time, and he gets away because he doesn't actually rob any big ships. He always attacks small ships, and ships, instead of gold, he doesn't go for gold. Blackbeard goes for molasses, which is why the authorities never actually hunted Blackbeard down that much, because they were like, who cares about molasses, right? We got to get the pirates that have gold. So he was kind of like a cop-out, a little bit of a pirate. The reason why Blackbeard's so famous, though, is because Blackbeard believed a lot in imagery. He believed that the image he portrayed was half of the thing about being a pirate. So he looked like a pirate, right? He had piercings and the big black beard that he like tied up in his, like, he looked really cool. He's notorious for having a very famous pirate flag. And he also had an obscene amount of cannons on Queen Anne's Revenge. So he had so many cannons on the ship, it's crazy. Blackbeard's real name was William Teach. But he's not on our list, so we're not talking about him, yo. We're not talking about him.
I mean, that's crazy.
It's what you need most, not what you want. Oh, I'm sorry, James Dede. What do I need most? I need a refill on my coffee.
Okay, come right up.
Evan Lutz, sir. It's awesome to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. All right, so you guys ready? You guys ready? You excited? You excited? You excited? So the first pirate that we're going to be talking about here is... The first pirate is, let's get a good background, right? We're going to be talking about number 5, the 5th pirate on my list, which is a really good one to start. A lot of people have this pirate as number 1. I'm going to have him as number 5. I have an epic background to go with it. What? Yeah, we have music in. It's just low. Want me to turn the music up? Can you not hear the music? No, there. See, music's there. Yeah, music's down on the computer. He doesn't hear it, but you guys hear it. Here, let's bring it up. There. Now we hear it. Yeah, yar. Now we hear the music. What? All right, you ready? All right, so here we go. We're gonna go with Bartholomew Roberts. So Bartholomew Roberts is my 5th pirate that I'm going to be talking about. He's the thing, and he's most famous because he's known as the handsome pirate. Okay, this guy is, one sec, here we go. This guy is there we go. So he sails the ocean from 1719 to 1722. One thing you're going to realize about a lot of these pirates is they're short-lived. When you go around the ocean pillaging and pirating, you're probably going to die, and we're going to talk about that, right? So Bartholomew Roberts was known as Black Bart, and he's famous for a couple reasons, okay? First of all, his ship was named the Good Fortune. Okay, so his famous ship named the Good Fortune. And Bartholomew Roberts was known as the handsome pirate. He dressed very fancy. He dressed in like a very classy manner, and he got famous for this, right? He was known as like this pirate that was like amazing. He had a lot of battles, but that's not why he's most famous. He's most famous for his pirate code. Bartholomew Roberts wrote the pirate code. Now, you might have heard about the pirate code in Pirates of the Caribbean. They kind of make fun of it a little bit. They talk about it like how it's meant to be broken. But Bartholomew Roberts' pirate code was like a legit pirate code. And most people back then wanted to be part of his cast, right? So here are the 10 things on Bartholomew Roberts' pirate code that made him famous. Number 1, every man has a vote in all affairs. Meaning that if they're going to attack a ship, every man in the ship has a vote. Okay? And every man gets a share of the loot. That's number 1. That he did, though, and we'll talk about it later. Hold on. The loot is a little bit funny. 2, every man is to be called fairly in turn by list on board of prizes because over and above their proper share. They were on these occasions allowed to shift of clothes, but if they defrauded the company to value, so if they stole from the loot, right? So you basically get clothes, you get jewelry, you get pottery, and they divvied up. And if you are caught stealing, okay, basically the punishment was death or marooning, meaning they would leave you on an island by yourself. If you stole from the company, you were marooned, okay? If you stole from each other, they would cut your ear off or your nose off, okay? So pretty gross, yeah. So if you stole from the company, you were killed or marooned. If you stole from another pirate on the ship, your ear or your nose was cut off. Obviously, if you guys already had an ear cut off, then you don't want to lose your second ear, so stop doing that. Number 3, no person on the ship is allowed to play games or cards or dice, right? Cards or dice for money. You can play cards, you can play dice, but you're not allowed to bet money. Number 4, the lights and candles are to be put out at 8 o'clock at night. And if any crew member is after hours drinking, they have to do it on the deck of the ship. You can't be underneath where people sleep. So lights go out at 8 o'clock at night, and if you're still partying, you got to go up on the deck. Number 5, you have to keep your pistols and your cutlass clean and fit for service just in case we get attacked. Number 6, no boy, no child, which I would imagine back then was like 12 or younger, or woman is allowed on the ship. Number 7, to desert the ship or their quarters in battle. So if you flee the ship or you flee your job when you're in fighting, you're scared, you get killed. They kill you. You're dead, okay? So no running away like cowards. Number 8, you cannot fight any other pirate on the ship. So if we get in a fight on the ship and we're like, ah, get in the picture.
Hey, no,
And we get in the fight, right? We're not allowed to do that, okay? So anytime you had a fight with a pirate, you had to wait till you made land, and then you were allowed to fight on land with swords or pistols. No fighting on the ship. Yeah, you can kill each other. You're pirates. Hello. Number 9, no man to talk of breaking up their way of living. There you go. So you're not allowed to talk about changing the captain. You're not allowed to talk about breaking up the piracy ship. And you're not allowed to talk about changing, like you want to quit, unless you, ready? This is the key. This is genius. Unless you put up 1,000 pounds, not pounds as in weight, like dollars. So if you're going to talk about changing the captain, or you're going to talk about changing their way of life, you have to put forth $1,000 first on the ship, the deck of the ship, and then you're allowed to bring it up. So this way, it wasn't that they were trying to shut people up and they couldn't talk about overthrowing the captain. It was rather, if you're really going to talk about it, you got to be serious. And if you got to be serious, you got to put $1,000 on your word, which is kind of genius if you think about it. It stops a lot of the little bickering. And then last, the captain and quartermaster are to receive 2 shares of a prize. The master, boatsman, and gunner, they get 1 share and a half, and all officers get 1 share and a quarter. Everyone else gets 1 share. So obviously, if you're higher ranked, you get a little bit more. And what's funny about this is I cut this one out, but this was funny. If you are missing a limb, like an arm or a leg, you get less a share because you're less of a man, which is not Anyway, not less of a man, less of like you're doing less work. So that is Mr. That is the Bartholomew Roberts code. Now, the last thing I do want to say about Bartholomew Roberts, which I find fascinating, and then we'll get to our fourth pirate, is the way he dies. He dies in battle, and he dies from grape shot. Does anyone know what grape shot is? Anyone?
I heard that. Wait,
Do they fire grapes? No.
just get hit in the back.
Yes, kind of. Does anyone know what grape shot is? Grape shot are little cannonballs that are connected by a chain, and they're made, when they shoot out, they're made to, the chain catches like the mast of the ship, and it knocks down the sails. But he gets hit in the neck, and he takes his whole head off. And that's how he died. And then they threw his body in the ocean, and they don't know where he's buried now.
Yeah, she's good found out.
So that's called grape shot in a pirate ship. Pretty awesome. Bartholomew Roberts.
Yeah, I know. I know because it's some. I don't know.
He knows, but he doesn't know. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
just
good.
I just heard of something funny, like they actually shoot out grapes.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, the fourth pirate that we're going to be talking about on our list, okay, is kind of cheating a little bit here, right? These are two pirates, and these are the pirates that lived. And I want to talk about them because I just find them a little bit interesting, right? And so the pirates that lived are Henry Avery and Sir Henry Morgan, right? So two Henrys. Henry Avery and Henry Morgan. And they're famous for their two live. Now, Henry Avery is a guy who basically, for the English, he's hired for the English for privateering. Privateering is different from piracy because privateering means the English will hire someone to go and attack Spanish ships, or English will hire someone to go and attack French ships. And so Henry Avery is out pirateering. He's attacking Spanish ships in the Indian Ocean, and he sees basically a rich fleet, right? It was called the Mughal Empire, and it was a rich fleet of gold, and it was completely guarded by tons of battleships. Okay, and so what Henry Avery does, which is really interesting, is Henry Avery. His ship, known as, I believe his ship was known as, hold on, I gotta look it up, the Fancy, right? His ship, known as the Fancy, is fast. And so what he does is he goes out there and he basically starts chasing down these ships. And since the main gold ship of this enemy fleet, this Indian fleet, had a lot of gold on it and a lot of treasures, they were going very slow. And so the Fancy caught up to them. But this is known as the Gunsway. And the Gunsway had tons of cannons, super defended. And what happened is when Henry Avery opened fire on this ship, they basically hit jackpot. They hit like the armor room. Half the ship blew up. They pretty much destroyed the ship in like one cannon volley. And so Henry Avery gets the ship, and apparently there was like $100 million worth of treasures on the ship. Okay? And so what happens is Henry Avery immediately takes all the ship, takes all the gold, and he's going to go travel the oceans and with $100 million worth of treasure. Now, India was so angry by this, but they immediately put pressure on the English Empire, and England outmade Henry Avery. Remember, because they hired him as a privateer. They made him illegal, and everyone wanted Henry Avery's head because basically, politics, right? The India was so mad that they lost their treasure ship that they said to England, like, we're not going to be your friend anymore at all unless you kill this captain and get our treasure back. So England, for no reason, right, they told Henry Avery to do this, but then they turn around and they say, Henry, you're a pirate, you're wanted for death. And so what happens is the Fancy sails all the way back to the Caribbean, and when he gets to St. Thomas, he finds out that there's a warrant out for his arrest. And so what Henry Avery does is he vanishes. They have no idea what happened to him. They never found his treasure, and they never found him. I told you, the pirate that lived. The second pirate that lived is one Sir Henry Morgan, also a privateer hired by the English to attack Spanish ships. And he's going to do this forever and ever. And the English are going to look at him as a hero. The Spanish are going to look at him as a pirate. You guys know of Captain Morgan's rum. You've seen commercials of it, right? So Captain Morgan's rum is from Sir Henry Captain Morgan. Basically what he does is, after he pirates the Spanish ships and he becomes a hero, the English give him his own island in the Caribbean. And Henry Morgan, what do you think he does on that island? Any guesses? he starts a rum plantation. And he lives the rest of his days as a rich socialite owning a rum plantation. Captain Henry Avery vanished with all his money, and Captain Henry Morgan lives the rest of his days on a rich plantation making rum. So those two right there are the pirates that live. Those are my number 4 pirates. Pretty cool. Any questions so far? All right, Christian. Now, for you ladies out there, this is a good one. My third pirate is one Anne Bonny. Anne Bonny is amazing. I absolutely think she's great. So Anne Bonny, let's see if I can get my, hold on. Let me get my Anne Bonny background going. So Anne Bonny, okay, now she's an Irish girl who basically I believe what happened is her husband cheats. Her husband, before they were married, he ends up having an affair with Anne Bonny, or no, I think her father had an affair on her mother, and then her father takes Anne Bonny and they go to Bermuda, okay, and they're gonna leave England or Ireland, and they're gonna go to Bermuda. And Anne Bonny is a redhead girl who goes to Bermuda, and she has a temper. Really bad temper. Stories are she stabs a servant and kills a servant when she was a teenager. So what happens is she ends up falling in love with a pirate named Calico Jack, and she sneaks onto his ship as a girl dressed as a boy. This is a true story. And Anne Bonny hides on the ship. But apparently during some of the pirate fighting that Calico Jack had, when they would raid ships, Anne Bonny, her hat would fall off, and she had red hair, and she was a phenomenal sword fighter, and she would jump on the ship, and she would have this nasty temper, and she would kill people on the ship, and she became known as the red-haired vixen, and this is Anne Bonny. She goes around the Caribbean pillaging and looting until they're captured, and what they do is they hang Calico Jack, and they arrest Anne Bonny and another female friend that she has named Mary Red, and they put them in a South Carolina jail, and they're going to be executed. But then they find out later that Anne Bonny is pregnant, and so they will not execute a pregnant woman. And that is the last time we ever heard of Anne Bonny. Some people believe that Anne Bonny escaped that jail and got out and continued pillaging and piracy, right? Other people think that she had the baby and then they executed her. But there is no written documentation as to what happened to Anne Bonny, the red-haired vixen. They know she had a temper, she was foul-mouthed, she was violent. I mean, to think that you could be a girl and jump into piracy is just, I mean, that's craziness, man. That's super impressive stuff. That's Anne Bonny. That's my third pirate. We're getting down to number 2. You excited, Jay? Jay, hello? Hello? Hello?
Hey, don't wake me up.
Oh, you're sleeping? I put my own son to sleep. That's not a good thing. No siree. Not a good thing at all. How are we doing in chat? No, there was a prison in South Carolina. South Carolina is not a prison in of itself. Australia was, but not South Carolina.
What?
You got to understand, Charleston, South Carolina, Virginia, Boston. These are harbors where pirates would go. They would steal in the Caribbean, and then they would go into America and smuggle their goods and things like that and sell them for money. Not all pirates stole gold. Most pirates stole product like molasses, like Blackbeard, or food and things like this, rum, and then they would sell the rum illegally in the colonies. And it was one of the things that the colonies loved because they could buy their rum or their molasses tax-free from the British because they were buying it smuggled in from a pirate. The British hated it. That's kind of the way it worked. James Didi, what is your controversial question about Anne Bonny? That's not true, Tyler. Yes, of course they can. That's a silly question, Brian. Blind people can dream. I'm waiting, James. Is it too controversial to write in chat? What's going on here? Is it about Anne Bonny, James? Oh, all right. Well, I guess you could write it to me in Google Classroom, and I'll get the message, and then I'll kind of do it. But don't do it on like the wall that everyone can see. Like, send a private message. All right. So here we go with number 2. Number 2 might be my favorite personal pirate. Okay. Number 2 is amazing. Okay. So the number 2 pirate here that we're going to be talking about. Oh, would you stop at my chair? Good Lord, you beat me up. This pirate is epic. Okay, this pirate is known as Captain Kidd. Now, Captain Kidd is a fascinating pirate. He's actually not that good of a pirate. He was a bad captain. A lot of people didn't really love him. He was in the Indian Ocean along with Henry Avery, and the British hired him to. He wasn't with Henry Avery, but he was over there. You know, the British hired him to attack French ships. He was a pirateer, not a pirate, a pirateer. It's two different things. And Captain Kidd is going to attack these 2 Indian ships, and he's going to steal their gold. Okay, he claims that the Indian ships were flying a French flag, that they were under the Kingdom of France. So he goes back to the Caribbean, and when he gets back to the Caribbean with all his loot, he finds out that there's a warrant for his arrest, just like Henry Avery. So Captain Kidd is going to sail to the regional magistrate, the leader of England in the region, and he's in New York City. Now this is where it gets fascinating, okay? So he's going to sail into New York City. So the story goes that Captain Kidd is nervous, right? That he's going to sail in and he's going to get arrested and that they're going to take his money. They're going to take his loot. And so what Captain Kidd does is he stops somewhere before New York City. Some people, the most probable idea is that Captain Kidd stops on Gardiner's Island, Plum Island, Block Island, Long Island on the East End, okay, and buries his treasure. And the reason why he does this is because just in case he gets arrested in New York City, that his treasure will be safe. So he buries his treasure. And then he sails into New York City to meet with the magistrate. And he says, I'm not a pirate. I attacked French ships like I was hired to do. And he has paperwork showing that the 2 Indian ships that they attacked had their manifest stamped by the French king. Well, the English magistrate doesn't care. They arrest him, they send him back to London, and there's a huge court case with Captain Kidd. And they call him a pirate. And Captain Kidd says, I have paperwork showing that I'm not a pirate. Well, they mysteriously lost the paperwork. And they hung Captain Kidd off the London Bridge for 3 years. His skeletons were hung off the London Bridge for 3 years to warn people away from piracy. In the year 2005, they opened up Parliament's paperwork in England, and they found the missing documents that Captain Kidd said that he had. And sure enough, the documents showed that the French manifests were stamped with the French king. So Captain Kidd told the truth. Nevertheless, how do we know he buried his treasure? Well, a guy lived on Gardiner's Island, and he called the English king, and he said, yo, I saw pirates on my island. And so basically what they did is they took the pirates, they took the English, they went to Gardiner's Island, which was right off of the Long Island, and they dug up and they found his treasure. They found Captain Kidd's treasure. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets super exciting. The amount of money that Captain Kidd was supposed to have was not there. It was only 10% of the money. So where's the other 90%? Well, some pirates on his ship said that they stopped multiple places off the east end of Long Island, and that they buried his treasure in several places. They've only found one. They know he buried it. They found it, okay? Back in the 1700s, they found it. So we know it's real. We just don't know where he buried it. Today, in 2020, people all over Long Island still look for Captain Kidd's treasure in Connecticut and Massachusetts, Cape Cod, Plum Island, right? There was a famous book called Plum Island, which was all about Captain Kidd burying treasure in Plum Island. There's all these secret places where people still look, and you never know. It's here on Long Island. He is actually the only pirate that they found his buried treasure, which is super interesting about Captain Kidd. I love it. That's a good one. Captain Kidd, that's why he's my second pirate, because the fact that he could have buried treasure right here on Long Island, in your backyard, you don't know. I mean, I would think of the places that a lot of people haven't been, like maybe William Floyd Estate, because William Floyd Estate has been there since the 1700s, and they've never developed, they've never built up, around there. So if it was buried there, it would never be found. You know what I mean? It would still be there. My son wants to go look.
Yeah.
And of course, Plum Island is a government research facility, so it could be there. Who knows, Captain Kidd? By the way, his name was William Kidd, which is funny because that's Billy the Kid, but different person. All right, so are you ready for my number one? My number one is my favorite. Let's go back to the chat real quick, see how you guys are holding up. What are you talking about, James? Let me go back. Is the Confederate flag racist? Yes or no? Explain the answer. I mean, this is obviously an opinion question, James. There are two ways to think of this. The one way is that the Confederate flag is not necessarily racist, that it is about Southern heritage. Other people think that, yes, it is racist. Where I tend to land on it, right, is I tend to think that the Confederate flag represents a time period in America that a portion of our country wanted to break away because of slavery. So yes, I would say that the history of it is racist, absolutely. So that's what I would say. Or if you don't think it's racist, at best it's racist. At worst, it's treasonous because it represents a part of the country that wanted to destroy the United States and break away from America. So either it's racist or treasonous. But really what it represents is it represents a lifestyle that supports slavery and that needed slavery. And so my opinion is it would fall in the racist category. And then on top of that, you also have to realize that not just because you don't think something's racist doesn't mean it's not racist. You know what I mean? So people who fly the Confederate flag, they might not necessarily be racist. Right? They look at it as it's hereditary, right? It's a heritage thing. But other people view the flag as racist. And so therefore, I think it's something that you shouldn't fly. You know what I mean? I mean, that would be like if you and your family, redefine the middle finger as saying hi, and then you go up into the store and you give someone the middle finger, like, I'm just saying hi. Well, that person doesn't look at it as hi. They look at it as something else, and so they would get offended. And the Confederate flag is kind of the same thing. Even if you don't think it's racist, other people do, and so you have to be careful with that. I hope that answered your question. And now for number one, the best pirate, and probably a pirate that most of you have never heard of. So get excited. The last pirate, and probably my favorite pirate of all time, and I'm going to explain to you obviously why this pirate is the best. The last pirate is a guy by the name of Jean Lafitte.
Oh, I know this guy.
Okay? Now, Jean Lafitte, he might not be a handsome pirate, okay? But he is the pirate who saved the United States of America. Let me explain what I mean by that. Jean Lafitte was a pirate off of New Orleans, okay? And Jean Lafitte basically, let me get my notes over here just to make sure that I am on point. That's not what I wanted to do. Hold on. Technical difficulties. There we go. Where are you at? There we go. There we go. All right. So Jean Lafitte. Okay. Basically, Bartholomew Bay. He's a pirate who works off of New Orleans. He steals and pillages British, French, and American ships going in and out of the harbor of New Orleans. And he hides in the swamps of New Orleans in a place called Bartholomew Bay. Okay. And basically what he does is he knows that the swamps of New Orleans are some of the most horrible places on earth. So anytime people or the authorities would go looking for him in like the late 1700s, he's way after the age of piracy, okay? The golden age of piracy is over. The United States has already won the American Revolution, and now he's a pirate in like 1790s, 1800, 1810. And he basically, every single time the authorities start looking for him, and him and his pirates, they run into the swamps, and no one ever dares go in the swamps because it's like alligators and snakes, and you don't go in there. Well, what happens is the America puts a warrant out for his arrest. They're looking for this guy all the time, and he is the #1 illegal smuggler in the city of New Orleans. Big deal, right? Well, in 1812, the War of 1812 breaks out. Some people refer to this as the Second War of Revolution, right? This is part 2 of the American Revolution, where England is going to come back and they're going to retake what they lost in the American Revolution. And England is kicking the butt out of America. They burned Washington, D.C. to the ground. We know this. They burned the White House in the War of 1812. They burned Baltimore, right? You have Sir Francis Scott Key writes the Star-Spangled Banner in the Battle of Baltimore. Pretty crazy stuff. Well, the war is, they want to take the big city of New Orleans, right? New Orleans. And the British realize that they can't because of the swamps around the area. They don't know how the city's defended. They don't know how to navigate the shallow canals and all this stuff. So what the British do is they basically reach out to Lafitte. And they tell him that they're going to pay him $30,000 from the Royal Navy for his allegiance. And that Lafitte needed to help the British take the city of New Orleans. Okay? Now this is how he's the pirate that saves America. Lafitte says, sure, I'll do it. And he pretends to cooperate with the British. Then basically he warns Louisiana officials that New Orleans is going to be attacked by the British. Okay? And instead of believing him, they basically summon the U.S. Army and the Navy to go and arrest Lafitte. So Lafitte is captured. Most of his businesses were destroyed. And basically, Lafitte tells General Andrew Jackson, like, listen, the British are going to take the city. And Andrew Jackson basically says, you know what? Fine, I believe you, but Lafitte, you have to help us defend the city. And so Lafitte says, sure. And Lafitte shows Andrew Jackson his way through the swamps. And they set up like hidden ambushes all in the swamps of New Orleans with Lafitte's help. Then as the British come into New Orleans, Lafitte helping General Andrew Jackson, who becomes president, right? They help him manipulate the swamps and attack the British. And the Americans completely slaughter the British. I think at the end of the day, they killed like 3,000 British sailors. They sunk like 7 British ships. And America only lost like 12 people or 25 people. Like the Americans completely kicked the butt out of the British at the Battle of New Orleans. And it was all because of Jean Lafitte. After the battle, Andrew Jackson is going to offer Jean Lafitte a complete pardon. He's forgiven for all of his crimes, okay? And Jackson personally commended Lafitte as one of the ablest men of the battle. And President James Madison issued a public proclamation of pardon for Lafitte and all of his pirates. Now, this isn't where the story ends, though. The story ends that Jean Lafitte, right after he's pardoned, what do you think he does? He moves his pirate crew to Galveston, Texas, and he continues to pirate the Gulf of Mexico, including New Orleans, including the United States. So he goes right back to piracy. And again, America, they issue warrants for his arrest. They can't capture him. And eventually, Jean Lafitte goes down into like Colombia, and he ends up dying in a battle in the swamp of Colombia. But he's my number one pirate because he is the only pirate that I think could be attributed to saving the United States. If the English would have won at the Battle of New Orleans, which they probably would have done without Jean Lafitte's help, I think England, the United States history would totally be different. And because this pirate decided to not, for $30,000, he decided, but that's today, not back then, that's millions. He decided not to help the British, and instead, for no reason, knowing that America had him as a wanted pirate, he reaches out to America, tells them that the British are coming, and then they arrest him, and then he strikes a deal with Andrew Jackson to help fight and defend the city of New Orleans. It's amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. So that is my number one pirate, Jean Lafitte. He is the most important pirate because of what he did. I love him. I think he's amazing. I would say Sir Francis Drake is another pirate who fights amazing and things like that. But there you go. Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? That's very funny there. He has had such a knowledge of the dark side. Yes, thank you. We're talking. So this is what you guys are doing in chat. You're talking about Star Wars. Good Lord. Are there any questions? So all of this history. Now, Jean Lafitte, all of his history is like real. They have it written down. And Bonny, right? They don't know a lot about her, right? She's obviously not taking journal. She's not writing journal entries. Bartholomew Roberts is probably one of the most famous pirates. If you've ever seen The Princess Bride, the Dread Pirate Roberts was modeled after him. He's a very handsome pirate, right? Swashbuckling. Who do we have? Henry Avery is famous because he disappeared with all that money. Who knows where he went? Captain Morgan is famous mostly because of the rum today, but because he was a pirate that every pirate would dream to be like because he lived and he made it. Most pirates die. And then, of course, Captain Kidd, you don't want to be him. The guy died. The only thing that makes Captain Kidd interesting is that there's some buried treasure out there on Long Island that we don't know about. And that is it. And then you have, of course, Jean Lafitte, who saves the United States. So how can you not love that guy? So those are my top 5 pirates. I know we didn't play any games or do any interactive stuff, but I figured I don't want to always do it because as much as you guys are excited about it, I want a variety. Maybe on Monday we're gonna do a social studies Kahoot, so be aware of that. No, I get paid a salary, chilled pig. I don't want donations from you. Your parents pay me enough in their tax dollars. So there you go. Save your money. Donate it to nurses. How about that?
Yeah.
All right. What's up, Jay?
I want to show them something.
What do you want to show 'em?
Gold. 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 Is that gold?
Is that gold? Is that? I can't see. Hold on. Let me see. Is that gold?
Gold. Okay, that's gold. Is that gold?
Oh, that is not gold. This is called fool's gold.
What?
It looks like gold, but it is not gold. All right, so that's it for today, fellas and ladies. That's it. So I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Do something fun. Today at 3 o'clock, do not miss the weekly wrap-up show. It's going to be epic. The weekly wrap-up show is all going to be about like tips and advice on how to master learning from home. And there you go. You understand this is a lesson for 8th grade social studies students from Center Merchants. Yes, have a good weekend. Thank you, Vicky. Someone on topic. I appreciate it. All right, this is, by the way, guys, Derek and my mods who are off topic and completely talking about nonsense, which is totally acceptable on Fridays. But this is why sometimes I pause the chat when I teach.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.
No,
Bye.
don't turn off the stream. Don't turn off the stream.
What do you want to say? Oh, this is... Kaylee Fox, you have a great weekend. I'm just gonna show this one more time. Ready?
Oh, 4.
No, stop.